Good. It's Monday, December 23rd. It's Wisecrack's last stream of the year. It's our case of the Mondays. I'm looking colder than normal because camera settings are a thing that I don't fully understand. I'm holding a microphone and it's not on a stand because we broke it during the stream 2 weeks ago, but we're still here. Oh, wow, I hear myself. That's weird. So excited to see everyone, excited to hang out with you all. It's the last one of the year. We're going to talk about the Matt Gaetz report that came out because why not? What's up, Eddie? What's up, Ian? What's up, Shadow Rail? Yeah, we're starting early today because we got to end early or end on time or however you call it. We're here. And like I said, we'll talk about Gaetz. Might take a little look at a new video about why the weirdest people ever want us to have a bazillion kids. Ian, I'm sorry about the beanies. For anyone who ordered Wisecrack Live 666 holiday merch designed by our buddy Eddie, after we put it up as an option for you to buy, the store was like, oh, actually, we can't do the beanies after they let us put them up as an order, which was very, very annoying. We still have hats, though. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. So please do check that out if you want. I think they're fun. If you need a last-minute holiday gift, try to do that. Well, Eddie's making German butter cookies and drinking Bloody Marys. You know how to start it off. I wish I didn't have to work today. Today, there was no traffic, which was nice, but it's clear that a lot of people are off work already. But the way we did our production schedule this year, we don't normally film this late in the year, but we're filming 2 videos today, so I'm in the studio, so why not stream with my buds, which are you. Henry, how you feeling about the impending holiday season?
I'm feeling pretty great. I saw Sonic 3 last night, and it made me smile.
Wow. That's great. I think that's what I would hope for.
Yeah, I've been kind of binging children's movies this season. We talked about The Wild Robot a bit on Show Me the Meaning. I also checked out Transformers 1. And I don't know. I'm a sucker for animation. It does its trick on me. And then, I don't know. Of the 3, the only one I didn't like after sitting on it for a bit was The Wild Robot. And yeah.
Yeah. Who is this? Someone in the chat says this channel is really nothing but corporate propaganda. Yeah. So this stream is sponsored by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. If you want to shoot to the moon, invest in weapons. That's what we're here to do. So everyone knows, we are primarily here to sell you weapons. We're sponsored by the military industrial complex, and that's what we're here to do. So just a reminder, if anyone thought that we were going to do any sort of critically curious, philosophically engaged discussion about things happening in the world, that is not what we're here to do. We are here to perpetuate a corporate militaristic propaganda. That's what the CIA pays us for. So, just a reminder, we're the number
CIA
one.
pays you?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell Eddie. Sorry, Eddie. I was looking at the chat. I forgot to tell Henry that we are a CIA-funded thing. We funnel the money that Henry gets paid from the CIA to an offshore account. I take a little bit out of that, but we're here doing the corporate talking points, and we love corporations. Speaking of corporations,
brands are good, and they're friends, and they're people.
Brands are people too. I'm organizing something called the Million Brands March, where representatives from all the brands are going to march on Washington to fight for equal rights for brands.
Lower taxes too, right? Always and forever.
Yeah, for too long, we've had a system of corporate apartheid in this country where brands and corporate entities don't have equal rights with organic humans. And I think it's time for that to change, and what better season than the holiday season to note the necessity of that change. But yeah, happy to be here with you all today. Christmas is interesting, right? It's like a tale of 2 cities in a sense. I said this to a friend the other day. I feel like Christmas is both the time of the year where people can be as warm and happy and giving as charitable as they are all year, but a season that also pushes a level of selfishness, anxiety, and self-centeredness at a level we don't have the rest of the year. Christmas is a time where we maybe more than usual hang out at home. We cook our own food. We make things for each other. We abstract from certain elements of the day-to-day economy, while at the same time being more fueled than ever by spending and buying shit that no one needs, and supporting big corporations and stuff like that. It's weird. And I think that it's naive to say that Christmas is only the good stuff. It is boringly cynical to say that it is only the bad stuff. I do
Did
think
you
that
know it's actually a pagan holiday?
yeah. Well, this is my thing too, is like, in general, let's just let it be a pagan holiday celebrating the solstice or whatever. Like,
I'm all for just a general celebration of humans coming together and working in groups and societies during the harshest time of the year on the planet. Within this climate, it's like a good just like refresher on like, oh yeah, like nature can kill you.
yeah. Eddie saw two dudes cussing each other out in the Whole Foods parking lot yesterday. That makes sense with the holidays. Drift King's corporate overlords are letting you work from home. Have fun ignoring your kids while doing that. But yeah, I think, regardless of how you think of the reason for the season, I think that you can embrace it as a time to hopefully get a little bit of time off work, to spend time with friends and family, to cook some elaborate meals, to watch some movies, to decorate your house so it feels nice, to have some drinks, and there's various ways in which you can, if you want to have an ideologically interesting take on the holidays, I think you can. I think that there are, you know, there are ways in which you could read the reason for the season as being at least relatively progressive, if not a little bit like humanistic and emancipatory. So, I want everyone to have a nice time, is what I'm saying. I want you to enjoy the fact that for whatever reason, we've decided as a culture, at least in America and many other countries, that we kind of all get to tap out more or less between Christmas and New Year's. So might as well enjoy it, right? What else are we going to do? What else are we going to do? Please like the stream if you haven't already. Well, let's take a look. I wonder if, let me see if I can find this. Yeah, let's look up this CNN story you have on Gaetz. So some of us probably know this. So Matt Gaetz, congressperson from Florida, real scumbag, just a real big scumbag. Sarah Sherman does a great impersonation of him on SNL, and he was going to be the attorney general for President-elect Donald Trump. And then he resigned, and it seems like one of the reasons he ended up resigning is because he knew that shit was a coming. He'd been under a House ethics investigation because he likes to do Florida stuff. He's a big Florida guy. And, if you look at the CNN thing, it starts by saying the House Ethics Committee found that former Representative Matt Gaetz paid tens of thousands of dollars to women for sex or drugs on at least 20 occasions, including paying a 17-year-old girl for sex in 2017, according to the panel's report on the Florida Republican released Monday. Not good. It's not good stuff. But whenever I see things like this, it does make me remember that a lot of the people, like, we do this weird thing, right? We get so obsessed with the morality of random individuals or people that we know or people that we don't know. And we get obsessed with the fact that, like, oh, people, I mean, by we, I don't mean you and me and Henry, but you know what I mean? That maybe, like, a person that does welfare used it to buy beer, that did a little bit of drugs, and we act like that's the worst thing ever. And then people who are, like, in Congress shaping the sort of economic and political structures of our entire nation are just out here paying to have sex with the teenagers, going to drug sex parties. And we're just like, well, that's how people get down, and not to be conspiratorial, but oh boy. It says the committee concluded in its bombshell document that Gaetz violated Florida state laws. It's bad when it even violates Florida state laws, including the state's statutory rape laws. The GOP-led panel chose to take the rare step of releasing a report about a former member who resigned from Congress. Weird guy. Do you guys remember when Matt Gaetz revealed that he had, like, an adopted son who was like 5 years younger than him? Do you remember that one, Henry?
Yes.
That was, what was his name again? Do you remember the adopted son? the name somehow, yeah, it made it better. Henry will look this up for us. Yeah, not the best guy. And what's up to everyone? We did start early. Nestor. Yes, he has his adult son, Nestor.
Just a dude he adopted, right?
Yeah. Wow. And I saw someone comment on the second half of the title in the chat. And we are going to maybe look at a little bit of a Tom, thanks, Casual Fox, new Tom Nicholas video about the weird sort of pro-natalist right-wing movement of a bunch of weirdos that want you to have kids. Some we've talked about before, but a fun excuse to, watch something by someone that we like. So there you go. Let's see. So yeah, Gaetz, let's keep going with this. It says this is bad. Yeah, the committee determined there's substantial evidence that Representative Gaetz violated House rules and other standards of conduct, prohibiting prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, impermissible gifts, special favors, privilege, and obstruction of Congress. Man, who would have thought? I know all of us thought he was probably a really nice guy. So he let's see, he made transactions with PayPal or Venmo to more than a dozen women. In 2018, he took a trip to the Bahamas.
Awesome, you know?
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, Henry's pointing out, like, he would pay women money via those apps and leave the reason for, like, just for being awesome. Have fun. You're my bud. I'm not going to say any of you, if any politicians are watching this, hey, what's up, Pizza Destruction? If any, people from Congress or Senate or any of those things are watching this, don't do what I'm about to say, but, like, if you're in a position of power and you're going to do sketchy stuff, be smart about it. You know what I mean? Like, have someone else pay those people. Like, if I was in a position of power and I was doing a bunch of drugs and doing prostitute stuff, I would have someone like an assistant that I paid, and I would funnel stuff through them so that you could not trace it back to me. It was like I finally finished the show Say Nothing last night, which first half of the show I liked, second half I didn't like. I think in a weird way it does, in trying to be a quote unquote good TV show, it does a really aggressive both sidesism between some genuinely horrible individual things and hundreds of years of colonial oppression by the British government. But in one of the things that happens in Say Nothing, this isn't a spoiler because it's a real thing that just happened in life. The leader of the party Sinn Féin, Jerry Adams, who was a member of the IRA, they try to jam him up on some stuff. The police try to get him jammed up. And Jerry Adams looks at them and he's basically like, you can't jam me up because I know that you can't prove it. I know that you know things, but I also know that you can't show a causal line of evidence where you have pieces of evidence that connect me to these things. So I'm just going to go be a real politician now and cash these checks. And I think that, Jerry Adams, and it's clear Jerry Adams did stuff that's not like Gaetz stuff, he did IRA stuff, which I personally think IRA stuff is better than Matt Gaetz stuff. But the point is, if you're going to be a sketchy politician, you have to be smart about it. And Matt Gaetz just seemed to think that there was going to be no consequences for any of this insane stuff he did when there was a clear digital paper trail between him and the stuff. Says on the Bahamas trip, he engaged in sexual activity with multiple women, including one who described the trip as the payment for sex. He also took ecstasy. I mean, who among us, who among us doesn't need to take a little ecstasy on a trip? So I was like looking for something that's around me. Now I can't find it. Oh God, I'm having a day on this end, guys. I am having a day. I'm really excited for the work year to end here for a little bit. Shout out to anyone who's getting a little bit of time off work. Yeah, it says earlier this month, the committee secretly voted to release the report after initially voting against doing so. The vote to put out the report, which was opposed by Michael Guest, a Mississippi Republican, was the culmination of years-long probe into allegations surrounding Gaetz. He was President-elect Donald Trump's pick to be Attorney General. Yada, yada, yada. He filed a civil complaint trying to keep this report from coming out. 1 second. But it'll be interesting to see what type of grift he does in the wake of this. Going down a little bit, it says in a statement Gaetz released on X last week after CNN reported the committee had voted to release a report. Gaetz denied having sex with a minor or paying women for sex. Says, in my single days, I often sent funds to women I dated. Even some I never dated, but who asked. What? In my single days. Weird. I often sent funds to women I dated. I think that's kind of weird. Even some I never dated, but who asked. So this man expects us to believe that in his single days,
just gave money to like a 17-year-old, I guess.
Yeah, you were just such a good guy that young women exclusively would just ask you for money, and you would say, "Here, have some money." I guess. Says I dated several of these women for years. I wonder what that means to, in terms of like, did you date them in parallel fashion? It's embarrassing though, not criminal, that I probably partied, womanized, drank, and smoked more than I should have earlier in life. I live a different life now. How old is Matt Gaetz? I can try to Google this real quick. Matt Gaetz age. 42 years old. I don't know. It's just kind of wild to. Wow, I'm not that much younger than Matt Gaetz. Wow. Yeah, and then going down, there's like a lot of evidence of women who confirm this. As one of the sexual encounters involved a 17-year-old girl. The woman told the committee she had sex with Gaetz twice at a July 2017 party when she was 17. They got $400 in cash, which they understood to be payment for sex at the time she had just completed her junior year of high school. Oh boy. And of course they have a bunch of online payments and text messages. Guys, stuff you do online is like real. You know, people can. Oh, let's see. The committee found that sexual encounters were often organized by Greenberg, his buddy, through a website. Then why didn't Greenberg pay them? Seekingarrangement.com. What is seekingarrangement.com? Isn't that like, I thought that was one of like the sugar daddy things.
I think seeking arrangement, I think, is exactly that. It's
okay. Because I was gonna say I'm not gonna go to that right now while I'm on a work computer. Not gonna do that. But if anyone has experience with that, they can let us know. Let's see. One woman was paid more than $5,000. His then his then girlfriend appeared to act as an intermediary between Gaetz and the woman he paid for sex, citing text messages. Gaetz' then girlfriend sometimes participated with him in sexual encounters with other women who were active on the website or otherwise involved in sex for money arrangements. His then girlfriend wrote to the women that the guys wanted me to share that they are a little limited in their cash flow this weekend. Matt was like, if it can be more of a customer appreciation week. Ew. Oh my God. Well,
they say they want to keep sex work illegal for moral reasons, but really it's just so they can have their own rackets going.
Yeah. So I'm just like scrolling down. There's a lot here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and again, like some of this is quote unquote interesting in so much as this is someone who's been an employee of our government for 8 years, who's very clearly a scumbag. Partially interesting in so much as like, it's one of those things too, where like there's a world where none of this would have ever come out. And you wonder how often stuff like this happens and doesn't come out. But not great. And he's a part of like the presidential brain trust, which isn't the best. He's in the inner circle with the fellas. What's up, Daniel? Happy holidays. Someone said, what are your thoughts on prostitution? Is this bad just because minors or bad because sex work and minors? Well, I would say that like the minors thing, definitely bad. I think, I don't know. I guess we can think about this out loud. I don't have like deep thoughts on sex work. I feel like I, in many cases, try to defer to people who have experience working in those industries. in reading accounts of it, to me, it sounds like there are people who make the conscious decision to have sex work be their mode of work and making money for themselves. And I'm not one to judge that in any way. I do think sex work is work. However, I think because sex work is unregulated and illegal in most places, I think the working conditions within that industry can be pretty horrific. And there's a lot of accounts that are pretty bad. And of course, there's not legal protections for things like that aren't considered real work and aren't treated like legal labor. So I think that's like bad and scary. I think that in this instance in particular, I think it's probably not the best. And I would say here in at least personally thinking this is scummy behavior, I think it's scummy behavior from Matt Gaetz. I'm not here to morally judge the people that were involved on the other side of this. Jared knows someone who works for a nonprofit saving traffic women. Yeah, I mean that is like that's the thing. It's true that in terms of like there's there are people who do sex work because they're consenting adults who want to do sex work, but a lot of people are trafficked, and that's horrible. But again, that's because it's an unregulated industry. Right. Jack of Demons said, "Did I miss the part about why the right wants people to have babies? That's what I want to hear about." Well, Jack, it's all about you. I kid. We're gonna get to that in a second, Jack. We're just talking about this Matt Gaetz thing first. But yeah, I mean, I will say, to maybe go behind the curtain for a second, like we've talked for years about doing something on like the ethics of sex work here at Wisecrack. And I think one of the reasons we haven't done it is simply because there's a high likelihood that YouTube would get mad at us for doing that. For example, we had to cut off the last part of the God's Not Dead 5 video. So if you saw it early, you saw that after the end card, there's a part where I accused Michael Luxembourg of being the real killer of United Healthcare CEO Brian Anderson or whatever. What's his name?
I was going to say Thompson, but I think that's the blood guy.
Yeah. But either way, so some of you got that little treat in the video of me making an aggressive legal accusation towards a coworker and friend, Michael Luxembourg. But that was at the very end of the video, and YouTube found that, and they demonetized that video over the weekend, and we had to go and take care of it. But someone said, Sean Baker's in the chat. Yeah, I have issues with that. That video is trash. Oh no, Louis Alejandro, the video on God's Not Dead 5 was actually really good. We have some videos where if someone said in the chat, that one was trash, I would be like, yeah, maybe. No, that one was super good. The one on God's Not Dead 5. I'm very comfortable saying that. The thing I'm most proud of with that video is that we kind of deconstructed the weird Christian political theology of God's Not Dead 5, not by externally critiquing that theistic logic via atheistic logic, but instead we used theological and biblical accounts to deconstruct what they were doing from within their own framework, which I think is a more convincing way to critique things like that. So again, like one of the reasons we haven't talked about sex work on the channel is simply because YouTube would get mad at it. YouTube's kind of a cop.
Evelyn asking good questions in the chat too.
Ooh, wait, who did?
Evelyn, okay.
Why am I not seeing this question? Let me go to all chat.
Are people who marry for financial support sex workers?
Whoa.
There are books, dedicated to exploring that.
Yeah. James says my friend got 15,000 big ones to stomp on crabs and heels while leading pharmacists watched on a hotel bed. I think that stuff is more like normal. If that makes okay. By that I mean like I'm like, you know what? If you have like a weird kink and you're gonna pay someone to like let you explore that in a non messed up way. I'm so confused by this person, Louis Alejandro, in the chat, because first they said like that they like Trump a lot. And then they said that our last video sucked. And now they're saying free the homie Luigi. And I find a lot of those things to be relatively inconsistent positions. But who am I to box you in, you golden god? But to get back to why we don't do videos on sex work, there's the YouTube thing. The other thing is like, you know, uh, it's one of those topics that I feel like I can only talk about it or think about it from such an externalized perspective. I have no experience in that world. I know that a lot of people do have experience in that world, are in vulnerable positions where they can't just like talk about what they're going through. So it just feels like something we honestly like couldn't do a good job at. So my sense has just always been that if people want to think about the ethics of sex work, that reading the writing on that or reading interviews with like sex workers about their experiences is probably a better bet than anything we could do. That's my thought on that. But if anyone has questions, you want to know, Louis supports the far right and real leftist. No, that's cool. I support the far right and real leftist. Yeah, I was really into both sides in World War II, so I totally see what you're doing there.
I do want to shout out the documentary Working Girls. It's a Lizzie Borden thing from the 1980s. Yeah, definitely worth watching if you're interested in sex work.
Wait, that wasn't a documentary though, wasn't it? Wasn't that like just a movie, or was that a documentary?
I think it was like a, I don't know. It's somewhere in between. I think it is presenting itself in a documentary style, but it is a fictional narrative. But it's based off like real like studying and interactions she did with people.
Yeah, that's and that movie it was on Criterion at one point. I actually like saw that.
Yeah, there's a Criterion release of it. That director does really interesting movies that I think our channel viewers would like. There's another one, Born in Flames, and it's kind of a what if scenario if instead of like Reagan in the 80s, the U.S. went more left and had kind of like a workers' revolution, but there's still like issues of racism and sexism that plague that sort of a society, and it's presented in a documentary style.
Yeah. Okay. Like Kitty in Another City said it was a book originally, Working Girls. So interesting. Yeah, but yeah, so I guess there's media on that you can check out. Someone brought up Sean Baker, and yeah, ever since I finally saw Nora, I have been thinking about I think Sean Baker's a weird guy. That's my real hot original take. I don't know. Sean Baker's kind of a weird guy. And I almost think that's why, like, if we're thinking about movies that give an account of sex work, I think that the Lizzie Borden thing to me, like Working Girl, seems more interesting in so much as, according to what Henry's saying and what I remember about it, what other people are saying, that it, kind of operates from the POV of sex workers who are presented as having, an autonomy and an agency in what they're doing and aren't kind of like the sex worker as constructed via the male gaze, I guess. Because if you think about a movie like Pretty Woman is very much what a certain version of like the Hollywood male gaze imagines the sex worker to be, or how they would configure the sex worker.
It's like turning her into a Cinderella, right?
Yeah. And I do kind of think in the movies that Sean Baker has made that involve those sorts of characters, I think there's a level, it's a little more like edgelordy, but I think it still feels, I don't know, in some ways connected to that type of male, or even like to be more structural patriarchal gaze, where I felt like, again, in watching a movie like Working Girls, there's a complexity and a humanity to the characters. But if anyone else knows movies or books or anything like that they're kind of thinking about when thinking about sex workers, Philosophy Tube has a good video on this topic, but it's UK centric. Yeah, because UK sex workers are always just like, it always involves fish and chips and the football and a pint of warm cask ale, and then you have to say "God save the king" right when you finish or something like that. Taxi Driver, that's a tough one. I would say that Hot Girls Wanted, yeah. I would say
Hot Girls Wanted was fun, or was worth watching.
Yeah. Let's not go too far in asking someone who's trolling in the chat to say more stuff, guys. But there you go. So another thing we want to talk about today, obviously, if people have more thoughts on the Gaetz thing, let us know. It's the big news story of the day. He'll probably end up on like Dancing with the Stars or things of that nature, just because that is how our society. That's how it always goes. We end up sort of like rewarding these sorts of people for things like that. Before we get into the baby bus video, which we'll watch a little bit of, just a reminder, this is our last stream of the year. I think it's been like a very fun, good year in terms of streaming. I think we've had some really good shows. We've covered some big topics. We've developed some fun new bits and recurring jokes. I mean, how did you feel like it was a nice year in streaming for us, Henry?
Yeah, I'm glad we got more guests this year. I want them all to come back. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, there's no one that didn't have a bad time here with us.
Yeah, we had some very, very, very good guests. I think
Honestly, I want to hear you talk music with CJ the X next year.
we will definitely do that. And I think there's a lot of people on deck for next year that I'm very excited about. So I think that, for those of you who like when we have guests on, I think you should like that.
Gotta get pizza with Cat.
Oh yeah, well, Cat's definitely coming back. I think too, maybe next year we've started to do this. I want to make some more people regulars, like, and you guys in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but why not have Cat on as like a semi-regular guest? Why not?
Yeah.
And there's a few other people who I just think like, why not?
I do like when like Lux and Chris Maverick get on stream too, and everybody just gets really chatty. That's kind of the fun geeky roundup.
Yeah. So, you can always hit us up at wisecracklive666 @gmail if you want more stuff. And just a reminder as well, if you did not watch the God's Not Dead 5 video, please go watch that. It's our last video of the year, so it'd be nice if people watched it. And then over on the Wisecrack 2 channel, our last video of the year over there, thanks for watching. That one is on Saturday Night Live, satire, politics, comedy stuff. I think it's pretty good. We're filming some stuff today that will make up the first couple videos of next year. One of the things we're filming today is on the movie Conclave, or Conclave, depending on how you say it. Conclave. And we're also filming something on degrowth, written by our good buddy John Duncan. So shouts to John Duncan. People want FD Signifier, as always. FD Signifier is great. I just don't know him, so we'll see if I can figure out a way to organically reach out. Naima, we can definitely have her back. Oh, definitely more debates. I think YouTube watchers referring to Matt McManus. I think Matt McManus is going to come on early next year and talk about his newest book, Liberal Socialism. Honestly, I just haven't had time to read it, but we want to do a little reset and make sure we get him on. So yeah, we'll definitely do a lot of more of, is what I was about to say. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really feel like my brain is collapsing. I feel like I have end of the year burnout. And I feel like I'm so excited. Like, I feel like I won't really do this, but I feel like it's in play that today, when we finish filming the 2 videos we have to film today, I just walk to my car and I just start like crying, tears of joy that I don't have to work for like a week and a half. That's good. That's not sad at all. Swordfish says Alice Capel. So I actually got an email from Alice yesterday. Alice has been working on a lot of stuff. Alice has been busy. I had asked her to, maybe do some stuff on the big stream from last week. And, she has a lot going on, but I think we'll try to get Alice back on soon. We love Alice. So definitely work on that as well. But yeah, I hope if anyone else is feeling like end of the year burnout, I hope you have time to kind of like take it easy and chill a bit. Eddie says more joke. The problem is with anything we do that's too jokey, and this is just the reality of it, a small subsection of you like it a lot, but a lot of people don't. Lux and I were talking about this because Lux and I were realizing there's some stuff we did on like the mega stream that felt like it was more stuff that we thought was funny that maybe A lot of our audience did not, which is totally fine. Humor is subjective to an extent. But I know, and I can't say too much about this, I know Lux is working on some projects for our parent company that involve, I would say, some more like comedic based shows and projects that will exist on the internet, but will not exist on Wisecrack as such. But I'll leave it at that. And yeah, just to do a little bit of year in review stuff before we look at this other thing. You know, we had Show Me the Meaning come back this year, produced by our buddy Henry. So we're going to do more Show Me the Meaning next year. We'll have some guests coming on that. I know that Matt, who is one of the other producers of Show Me the Meaning, is working on getting some guest books or guest over there. I know I'm going to use corporate speak right now, in Q2 of 2025.
What was that?
Q2 business speak, baby. Henry and Lux are hopefully launching a video game based stream, which will also have some cool guests and will live on Wisecrack too. So that's something that's coming down the pike, right into your eyes, your mouth, your whatever. And then we have a pretty good early video slate coming at you for next year. We're definitely going to try some new stuff next year. Like every year, I think this whole thing is going to collapse. So I would say that if you would have asked me at the beginning of 2024, I would have said the likelihood of Wisecrack surviving the year would have been 50-50. If I'm being really honest with you guys. So it's wild to be starting 2025, seeing where that goes. And that's weird for me too, because let me do some math. 2021, 2002, 2003. Yeah, so I've now, next year will be the start of my 6th year being the host over here as well. So that's fun. It's kind of been a thing too. I know I'm just talking about stuff that no one cares about right now. I'll wrap this up soon. I'm just like talking to you guys like I'm at a therapy session, but it's always been
Oh, Penny, disagree. It's been a great year for movies. But also Hundreds of Beavers is the best thing.
I want to watch that. Well, maybe we'll talk about this early in 2025, and I think I'm going to get to guest on Show Me the Meaning a couple times next year. I still have not seen some of the stuff. My take on 2024 is it's an incredibly mid-year for movies, in that there was a lot of movies that were like pretty good. I have yet to see anything this year that I would call great. So there you go. But I'll wrap up my point just for anyone who's over-invested parasocially in my unconscious mind. But, when I first took over as the full-time host, I think I first started doing some hosting for the channel like 2008, 2019. When I first took over full-time in 2020, it was weird. People were mad. They were like, where's the other guy? Who's this guy? So I think as I come up on my 6th year, it feels nice because now it's sort of, I've had time to come into my own and do my own thing. And I think we've kind of found our new groove. And I think that that's happened in many ways because of you all. So I want to say thank you for that. It's cool and it's nice. And I like that very much. Only 660 years to go. Let's see. Yeah, but I think Jared, who started this channel and is truly the OG and someone I respect and like very much, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. I'm really happy that I think this year as well that he has his own thing right now. You know what I mean? If you guys look at Jared's channel, he's making videos doing very Jared-y stuff that are doing really well. So I think that it makes me happy to end 2024 on this note of just Jared, who started this channel, is doing his own thing, and he's doing the most Jared-y thing there is. So for anyone who wants that, he's giving it to you. So you don't have to look at Wisecrack anymore with a sense of wanting it to be what it was. Because if you want to see the stuff that Jared is making now that most accurately represents his interest in POV, he's giving you that over on his channel. And if you want stuff that represents me at my most meanest, there's some of that online. And then, and then we have Wisecrack a corporate entity that serves the military industrial complex. So there you go. So let's check out a little bit of this Tom Nichols video. Nicholas, someone who we like a lot. You know, the opening shot I relate to, you know, pushing a baby in a stroller. That's the thing I do. I don't know. I wonder if Tom had a kid and that is what this is about, or if he's just using that as a prop. Cool to watch a little bit of this, Henry? Awesome. Let's press play and see what happens.
Let me show you a video.
The goal of our organization is not to convince people who have no kids to have 2 kids or.
I have to say this right off the bat. I know this is me being the worst version of myself, but this guy who seems like the biggest little chode ever, having the gun behind him is so funny. I think only the biggest weird dorks in the world that are overcompensating make videos where they put a gun behind him. This is a guy who seems like, to quote Jay-Z, who might be problematic now, who knows, but to quote Jay-Z, this is a man who clearly would not bust a grape in a fruit fight. To reference Mobb Deep, this man would be a very shook one if anyone ever rolled up on him. I know that I'm playing into some toxic masculine tropes. I'm very old. I got even older the other day. I'll be honest, it was my birthday yesterday, so now I'm very old right now. But just any dude who has to put a gun behind them in their like interview they do for an internet show to remind you that they're tough, I think is the most ridiculous thing ever. I apologize if any of you currently have guns behind you right now. I do not have a gun behind me. There is a compartment, though, where if I hit a button on the thing behind me, a gun pops out.
1 kid is to convince people who have 4 kids and to make it easier for people who have 4 kids to have 9 kids if they want.
This is Malcolm Collins. Malcolm and his wife Simone are authors, private equity investors, and venture capitalists based in Pennsylvania. Earlier this year, they welcomed their amazingly named 4th child, Industry Americas.
Industry Americas. I like how she kept her like Ayn Rand glasses on during the birth. We also, I think that was this year, maybe last year, covered a big article written about these people.
Yeah.
Some of you might remember this, where they just like hit their kids in front of an interviewer and we're like, no, it's good. They like it. Yeah, I hate the guys so much. I hate that their name is Collins. I have some family named Collins. There's some great historical figures. Shouts to Michael Collins with that name. Drinks, Tom Collins. That's a drink people like. So it's annoying that they have to have that name and be this terrible. But yeah, it almost like that guy reminds me of, he just seems like such a little baby that he has to like show a gun and like hit his kids to feel like a big man. Oh boy.
Into the world. But if a family of 6 sounds like a pretty full house already, they don't plan to stop there.
We're gonna have more than 7 if we can, basically.
What is he dressed like? Like, she obviously looks like an Ayn Rand type. He looks like someone that would work in like the policy wing of the Nazi party.
I was going to say Indiana Jones villain.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I mean, he looks like the kind of Mads Mikkelsen character from the most recent Indiana Jones, who dressed like that and was, of course, a Nazi. Like, do they think they look cool? Or he kind of looks like he would be like a lesser sort of like Bugsy Malone type or something. Like, it's weird. I don't know. What is their thing? Like, I'm not against people having vibes. I think if any of you
want to be
have like
blinders in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. But if any of you have like a cool vibe and you dress a particular way and you like have a quirky look, I think that's cool if it's authentic to who you are. I wish I had a look. Sometimes I take notes in my notes app and I think about what would a look be for me. You know, I've thought about trying to figure out as I enter my 40s. Yeah, I turned 40 yesterday, okay? I'm having a slight existential crisis about it, I'm going to be honest. I know some of you are in your 40s. You know, if you have tips for being 40, wisecracklive666@gmail.com or hit me up on social media. I think I'm unraveling a little bit because of it. But that's another thing for another day. Someone said they're going to steal the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, I like to stream of here, but let's these people.
Until my uterus is forcibly removed in a botched surgery.
She wants to have kids until her uterus is forcefully removed in a botched surgery. Also, can I say another thing? These people are the biggest fucking posers. You know, I said I have family that are I'm gonna tell you why. I have family and they have the name Collins. Henry, guess how many kids my aunt, whose name is Collins, has?
5.
12. And she's not writing books about it. She's not out giving interviews about her uterus. You know what she did? She put her head down and she did the work. And she didn't make it about her, and she didn't make it a movement. Her and my Uncle Mike were like, we're going to have 12 kids. And you know what they did? They just had 12 kids.
Yeah.
It's not their identity. They have other things that they do. My uncle had 12 kids. He's a surgeon and a published author. Are his books about why you should have kids? No. They're just about other stuff. You know? Are my cousins from the family of 12? Is their whole thing like that no, they're just people. Some of them are cool. Some of them are weird. I love them all. But what I'm saying is, like, act like you've been there before. Put your head down. Let your work do the talking. And as someone that comes from a family where people in my family have 12, they have 7, they have 5. They have people, you know, I'm from an Irish Catholic family. People have kids. They're acting like they invented having a bunch of kids. The Catholics have done this for years. They put their head down and they do the work. And they also have other interests like pasta, pierogies, drinking. I don't know. I'm just thinking about Catholics, and I was thinking about Italians, Polish, and the Irish.
I'm going to keep going.
If you keep even vaguely up to date on the news, you've likely seen the Collinses about before. They've been interviewed a lot over the past few years. Been in newspapers, on podcasts, on TV.
And that's because the Collinses aren't just planning to have lots of kids.
Is it Collinses, or wouldn't it be the Collins? Is it a British versus American thing in America, in American English? Someone in the chat let us know, because I think I would say so. Again, I have relatives that are the Collins family, and I think if we referred to them internally in my family, we would say, "Oh, we're going to the Collins for Christmas." We wouldn't say the Collinses. But also, I don't know English very well, and most of my family are just, you know, inbred Irish freaks.
Simply because they're children.
No. They're the leading lights of a niche yet vociferous movement which they call pronatalism.
So the Pronatalist Foundation, which we run, says no matter what, we are going to have demographic collapse in the developed world, and it will wreak havoc on the economy.
When they say demographic collapse, guys, you know what they're saying. You know what they're saying. Does someone in the chat want to say what they're saying?
Eugenics.
Yeah, it means they're running out of whites. Someone said, "Who's your aunt?" Nick Cannon. You know what? That's funny. Louis Alejandro in the chat. I've not liked most of what you've said today. The joke about my aunt being Nick Cannon is very funny. That's sick. So, and I also say that never anyone who ever is like, oh, but then he did earlier up. He called my aunt a dog. I didn't like that. You won me and you lost me just like that, Louis. The Nick Cannon thing, I was just like, you know what? Back in on this guy. Then I see you calling my favorite aunt a dog. Back out on this guy. Also, that aunt would fuck your shit up. If I told her where you lived, she would wreck you. I'm not even kidding. She could take you out. But I'm not gonna, because I care about you. Yeah, people in the chat are getting this. There's no white people left. That's their big worry. And again, this kind of relates to the video that we're filming today that John Duncan helped us write. Like all of the like economic collapse stuff only makes sense if you're presupposing an economic model that necessitates infinite growth, and in particular, infinite investment and consumer growth. That is not a naturally existing thing. It's a particular system that we've come up with based on principles that don't make sense because there's no such thing as infinite growth in a world where we have limited resources. But yeah, more white babies, dog.
Our goal as an organization is to preserve as much of our existing human diversity as possible into the future.
Their core belief is that the greatest threat currently facing humanity is not climate change, inequality, zoonotic disease, or any of the usual concerns you might hear raised about our crisis-stricken world, but instead, declining birth rates.
It's so much worse than people think. So if you look at the United States, if you project forwards the decline in fertility rate we have had in the past 10 years, and you assume one...
Imagine letting that guy put let alone multiple babies in you.
Generation every 30 years, for every 100 Americans, there's only going to be around 4.3 great-grandchildren.
The Collinses aren't alone in harboring this fear that humanity...
What a weird thing to be obsessed with.
Well, Michael, since Luigi Mangione is now a terrorist and Italians are no longer white, the numbers are even lower, so he's probably panicking even more.
Yeah. Oh my God. This guy, what a dork. And like, I know that calling people like weird or dork or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's lame, and sometimes I'm playing into like these toxic masculine tropes, but you know what? I guess in a sense, I do feel like now that I'm 40, I'm allowed to be a little bit washed and problematic, you know? Entering my Louis C.K. phase. I'm not doing that. Someone says he looks like an evil version of Ben Schwartz. Remember when Ben Schwartz had an improv show with Thomas Middleditch, and then they had to stop it because Thomas Middleditch was evil, and then Ben Schwartz had to do a whole other thing, and it was like the only improv thing on Netflix. That was wild.
He might be on the dying out.
Pronatalism has become a highly fashionable thought trend in Silicon
is there a
Valley.
baby in your pram?
Elon Musk has repeatedly stated that what he calls population collapse represents an existential threat to humanity, a position which
A thing I'm not ready to think about is the influence Elon Musk is having on the American government. Now he's trying to have an influence on the German government. And it's insane that we live in a system where just being a super rich South African apartheid bro who hates your own kids somehow gives you the power to control elements of our government. It's really insane. I think that maybe we're all not reckoning with that because we don't want to existentially spiral. You know, maybe the rest of you also turned 40 and you're like, I got enough on my plate, so I can't think about Musk right now as well. But again, it's one of those things where like, look at the people who care about a thing. It's okay. So there's the old line. It's like you can judge a man by the company he keeps or something like that. I think that sometimes we can learn a lot about the underlying motive behind people who care about certain issues by who cares about it so much. Like that weird guy cares about it a lot. Elon cares about it a lot.
Appears to have factored into his own decision to have fathered 12 children at time of recording.
From there, the belief that we urgently need to boost birth rates has become
But he doesn't have a relationship with a bunch of them. At least my aunt that has 12 kids has relationships with all of her kids, and she doesn't give interviews where she's like, one of my kids is dead to me because it did something I didn't like.
a recurring theme, both in the contrarian podcast sphere and in formal conservative politics at the very highest levels.
We don't have enough families and children to continue as a nation.
Here's what they're saying, though. Again, they're talking about the reproduction of the working class. That's what they're talking about. Like, they want it's like a both racial thing and it's a labor thing. They need enough people to work in the mines, but they also want to make sure that the people that work in the mines, when they clean their faces off, there's alabaster complexions underneath the soot and the grime of the proverbial mines.
There is one criticism that liberal individualism has completely failed to deliver, and that is babies.
We want to produce babies in this country, right? We want to.
Well, if I had ovaries, hearing him say that would make my ovaries self-harm.
Produce babies.
When I first started making this video, I was pretty skeptical of this whole population collapse thesis. Given the rogues gallery of populists and reactionaries that have become the leading lights of the pronatalism
So I haven't watched this video. Is Tom about to turn?
movement, it's easy to push it aside as just another conspiracy theory. The latest installment in the franchise which brought us vaccine passports, 15-minute cities, and they're eating the dogs.
They're eating the dogs.
The more time I've spent digging around this topic, however, the clearer it seems that declining birth rates really are about to lead to some pretty significant social and economic challenges for many countries. Probably the country that you're watching this from right now.
There are a few questions that I want to try and answer over the next however many minutes then. Firstly, how bad really is the decline in birth rates which the pronatalists are so incensed by? Secondly, why are they so interested in this crisis over the many other challenges the world is presently facing? And thirdly, does the pronatalism movement actually have any useful answers to the world's baby drought? Or are the real solutions ones which the Collinses, Musk, Trump and their allies would be unlikely to find so appealing?
I'm envious that when Tom makes YouTube videos, he gets to go outside. You know, I'm just in here. During our stream on a couple weeks ago on Friday, I don't know if any of the folks who are here are watching now, but some really fucking incredibly nice folks who are part of our community came to the studio to hang out. No one tried to murder me. No one was weird. Everyone was just like so cool and nice. But at one point, we came in this room. Someone was like, oh, I want to see like the wall. And it was kind of funny to see people's faces be like, oh, that's it. That's the room that you have to be in all of the time. You know, it was almost like it went from like people being excited to see it to being like, oh, so you're like a prisoner of sorts.
Any discussion of modern day concerns about birth rates.
Yeah, we need to do some more outside Wisecrack lives.
This is The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich. Published in 1968, Ehrlich's book makes exactly the opposite argument to that of today's pronatalists. Rather than population collapse, it warns of a rapidly approaching
Wisecrack Live? Wow, we need that for sure.
Future in which an exponential rise in the number of babies being born means there are more human beings alive on planet Earth than planet Earth can adequately sustain.
The main premise is that there's 3.6 billion people in the world today, and we're adding about 70 million a year, and that's too many. It's too many because we are getting desperately short of food, that we're very much short of other resources, and that above all, the very delicate life support systems of the planet, the things that supply us with all of our food, ultimately with all of our oxygen, with all of our waste disposal, are now severely threatened.
What the population bomb does share with today's pronatalists is an unapologetic alarmism. At its heart is the observation that what Ehrlich calls the doubling time of the human population has been exponentially decreasing throughout history.
Prior to 1650, he estimates the global population doubled around once every 1,000 years. Then, in the 200 years between 1650 and 1850, it doubled again. Then again in the...
Like, have you ever met people, guys? When you meet people, do you think we need more of them? You know, have you met people like... You know, like recently, have you guys like seen people like what they're up to? Like, you know, I don't know. Most people I meet, I'm like, I think we're good. I don't think we need much more of that. Sometimes I meet dogs and I think we need more of those guys, you know? But people, like, I think we're fine, you know? And again, I think a lot of the people that are being talked about here are again, they're worried that brown people are making people and they want more white people to make people.
80 years following that. By the time The Population Bomb was published, that doubling time had dropped to just 35 years.
The challenges which might come with such a rapid rise in population are fairly obvious.
It might be relatively easy to double the global population in 35 years, but it's much harder to increase the size of the global food industry at the rate required to feed all those extra people. Can you build enough houses for them? Enough transport? Educate them all? Can the environment take the extra stress they'll place on the planet?
Like everything you just said is going poorly. You know, we don't have enough housing. The planet is dying. Our education system is collapsing. And starvation and malnutrition. So yeah, I don't even started with that one. Yeah.
Ehrlich's answer is an emphatic no. He went on to argue strongly for governments to introduce measures to discourage people from having as many children.
The only hope that there is that we will be able, at least in the United States, through the political process, to get a government that's courageous enough to say, look, we're overpopulated and we have to have population control and start moving in that direction.
This concern that the size of the global population might one day overwhelm the resources available to feed everyone wasn't entirely new. The Population Bomb is effectively a modernizing adaptation of an 1803 pamphlet by Thomas Malthus, which similarly predicted that overpopulation would one day lead.
You know, and also to be clear here historically, you know, we're talking now about how there is a sketchy white supremacy thing applied to pronatalism, and historically there's been some sketchy white supremacy stuff applied to fears about population growth, because often it was a fear of, you know, the other ones having the kids.
To famine or. Nevertheless, Ehrlich's book was a sensation. It sold more than 2 million copies, led to its author becoming a regular guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and firmly lodged this concern about population growth in the popular imagination.
Until very, very recently, if someone was going to strike up a conversation with you about...
Predict it now, is there going to be a reveal that there's actually a baby in Tom's stroller / pram, depending on the language you use and what region of the world you live in?
The global population, they were almost certainly going to argue that there was simply too many of us.
Ehrlich's wish for population control even came true in at least one case, in the form of China's infamous one-child policy, which punished families who had more than one baby. There was just one problem with Ehrlich's thesis. Even by the time the population bomb was published, global birth rates had actually started to decline.
I'll give you a theory real quick. If people in America especially want more people to have kids, there's very easy ways you could do that. Their path is doing like weird moral, ethical justifications for the inherent goodness of having kids and having more of the white kids so that they balance out the other kids. If you want people to have kids, guys, I don't know, make life a little bit easier. Have more public parks and access to public education, have government-funded preschool and daycare centers, have a government-mandated maternity and paternity leave program. Have
3-day work week.
Yeah, 3-4 day work week, you know what I mean? Like, make education more affordable, make access to healthcare easier, make it easier to get access to housing. People would have more kids. I talk to people I know who would like to have more kids. You know why they're not having kids? Not because they're like, I'm a white liberal elite, so I don't want to have kids. I just want to watch Sex in the City and order DoorDash. No, they're like, oh, I wish we could have more kids, but honestly, we just couldn't afford a house to have more kids. Or I wish we could have more kids, but, you know, because my job is so insecure, I'm worried if we had more kids, what happens if I go on unemployment? I wish we could have more kids, but, you know, I'm worried about like the climate collapsing. I wish we could have more kids, but the cost of education is so expensive. Like, that's why people aren't having kids. You know, there's always these simple material explanations for these things, and people overcomplicate it in ways that just justify their own burgeoning unconscious Nazism.
And over the next 50 years,
they
it would
like
steadily reach a point where the world's population was not about to catastrophically explode, but in many countries was actually starting to decline. In short then, the basic phenomenon that the Collinses, Elon Musk, JD Vance and their fellow pronatalists are so concerned by is a very real one. Across much of the world, people are having fewer children than ever before. There are a few key metrics which help us understand how population size changes over time. The first is the total fertility rate. This is the total number of children the average woman in a given country or region will have.
Maybe people aren't having kids because a bunch of like weird dudes look up to Andrew Tate and a bunch of other freaks, and then women are just like, I would rather put mud inside of me than have these guys impregnate me.
Over the course of her life. At present, for example, the total fertility rate in Egypt is 2.8.
There's an article I thought about having us look at today, but I thought I would say something that would get us in trouble. But one of like the liberal dudes who has been on a bunch of the Jubilee debates, and he's the guy who was in the debate that was like 1 woke liberal versus 20 Trump voters, and the New York Times did a thing about it, like he's the answer to the left's lack of a person. So I went down this rabbit hole yesterday of like watching clips, and dude, it's so lame. He's this guy, and I feel bad being mean to someone who's in his early 20s because like who knows anything when they're in their early 20s, but his whole thing is like, hitting up like the worst fascist dudes online, being like, debate me, I will fucking destroy you. Like, first of all, cool, like make some content where you yell at another big boy online. Oh, big man. Second thing is he's kind of a little guy. And by a little guy, I mean, this guy looks like he's probably like, 5'6", $130. Nothing wrong with that. But then he posts pictures of himself shirtless, like doing like, and Henry, you're a gym guy, so you know this. Sometimes people do the flex where like they pull their stomach in and like bulge their chest out.
Yeah.
In a way that like, and so he does a thing where if people are mean to him on Twitter, I'm not going to say the guy's name, but it's New York Times. He like posts that as a response. And it's like, dude, I don't care if you do your little pose. You're $130 and would probably get your shit rocked. And I think that there's a sense in which my thought yesterday was like, it's so dumb if all the toxic chuds online are somehow making it that you have to be jacked to be like cool and important. It's a really lame move for someone who's arguing counter to that to play into that same logic and be like, I'm a smart debate boy because I'm jacked. No, you're just playing into their dumb logic. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Be a soft boy. Love theater. You know what I mean? Like, make art. Do whatever you want to do, but you don't have to be like jacked to somehow compete with the Tates of this world. I just found it a very depressing read. Again, it was the New York Times yesterday. Yeah, it's a guy named Dean. It's Dean. And again, there's nothing wrong with being 5'5". Here's all I'm saying. Like, for example, I'm not a big guy. I'm not a muscle guy. And because of that, I don't present myself as like a jacked dude, right? I have people that on the internet and in the chat here and in comments call me a little woke chud, whatever. But how embarrassed would you guys be for me? Be really honest. How embarrassed would you be for me if the next time some like, Destiny fans or some right-wing dudes were like getting mad at me on Twitter, you looked and I'm replying with shirtless selfies flexing where I'm just, and I put text on it that's like, nah, brah. Like, that wouldn't be cool. You would probably feel really sad for me. You'd probably think, this is pathetic. I don't know what he's doing. I hope you would think that. And if you think it would be cool if I did that, it wouldn't be cool. I love that you would support me in that. But yeah, I just found that so depressing to see that little thing right there. But we'll watch a couple more minutes of this. That's my rant on that thing. Eddie said, I know what you mean though, flex your brain. Yeah, well, here's my toxic thought. And you guys know I do this sometimes because I have toxic tendencies. But my real toxic thought is if your whole thing is going to be that you're like yoked too, then you got to fight someone. Because why does it, you know what I mean? Like, because here's the thing. If you're jacked because you want to be healthy, that's awesome. You should be healthy. One of my goals now that I'm old is to try to be healthier. But if your whole thing is going to be like, I'll debate you and I'm jacked, then fight a guy.
Yeah, with those qualifiers, I get where you're coming from. I was going to say, like, I think you have to keep consistent in what you're competing in. You can't be debating sort of like intellectual merits and then be like, oh, but my aesthetics. But like, I mean, if you're lifting, go do a fucking, bodybuilding show. Don't be fucking like on Twitch yelling at people over like minutia of shit you don't know because you just want to flex biceps.
Like someone said, I don't know if you've seen though, Hassan is jacked. Hassan's jacked, but I feel like, does Hassan like respond to people that want to debate him or haters by being like, I'm jacked?
Yeah, I think I saw the one thirst trap he recently posted as part of like his bodybuilding progress. But I mean,
but here's the thing.
He didn't tell Asmongold to fuck off and that he was wrong on Palestine because like he's more jacked than him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that like a thirst trap is one thing. If you do a thirst trap, it is what it is. Thirst trap is just being like, I'm out here. It could
be a little fun and slutty.
Yeah, but I think when this like Dean little kid, and he's a little guy, I feel bad. He's gonna look back on this and feel dumb one day. So I don't want to be too mean. I did some dumb shit when I was in my 20s. It's not on the internet. But like when you post like in replies to chuds, like you doing that's not a thirst trap. I don't know, man. And then like these like little debate guys got invited to the White House. Yeah, but like that guy and a bunch of other dudes all got invited to the to that. I got my fighting done as a teenager. Yeah, Louis right. At a certain age, you shouldn't fight. Like at a certain age, it's embarrassing to get in a fight. I'm just going to say that right now as well. Watch a few more minutes of this and I'll leave because I'm just going to say something toxic. I feel it coming.
Which means, as things stand, the average Egyptian woman either has or is on her way to having 2.8 kids.
That's what I'm saying. Like the 0.8 just shouldn't be posting the flexing photos. The 2 post photos of you getting jacked, but if you're just a 0.8, you got to keep it, lock it down.
If we're interested in whether the population of Egypt or any other country is going to rise or fall over time, then we need to compare that figure to another metric called replacement level fertility.
This refers to the number of babies that each woman in a given country or region would need to have for the size of that population to remain stable once that woman and everyone else in her generation.
All right, so as always, this is a long video that Tom made. I'm gonna post a link in the chat right now. Finish watching it on your own. I mean, Tom's like very successful. He doesn't need our help. He made like a movie that's out on Nebula, so you guys should check that out too. Someone said, "What is a chud?" You know what? I'm gonna see if there's an Urban Dictionary thing because it's one of those words that I use all the time, and I like know what it means. Well, cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Yeah, that was originally a movie term.
Yeah. So here's some definitions on Urban Dictionary. An unattractive person whose defining characteristics of their personality is their egotism. Okay. Anyone who has no good qualities, asshole, morons, incel, Chad plus stud, incel, chud. Okay. A defecation of at least medium width. Okay. Someone said a conservative Republican, someone who's either racist, sexist. I mean, when I think about chuds, I think about like bro-y, internet-y, right-wing dudes. That's what I think of as like chuds. Yeah, it's like a certain form of
online loser.
Yeah. Garrett, I've not read that book yet and I need to. Okay, guys, so this is our last stream of the year. We'll be back. Let me look again. I don't think chud's a way of saying a slur because there's no one I'm thinking of referring to when I say chud that would be like in a slur category. Even though someone like wanted to debate with me on Twitter the other day and saying that like we couldn't they said I was being racist towards whites. We're gonna come back on January 6th in 2 weeks. Okay.
Oh boy, January 6th.
Yeah. So guys, we're gonna do a digital January 6th together on January 6th. In the meantime, just a reminder, like watch videos, you can catch up on streams. Again, I hesitate to do anything that's self-promotional. It doesn't involve Wisecrack stuff. I'm gonna do a couple of streams someplace else in the next couple of weeks. You can make of that what you will. But it's been a great year. I very much enjoyed hanging out with everyone. I've really enjoyed growing the stream community. It's cool that I've met some of you this year, and that's been a really cool privilege. And you've all been really cool. And I assume all of you are really cool. Even if you make jokes comparing my aunt to a dog, I'm still glad that you're here. But again, if you ever see my Aunt Patty, she will curb stomp you. But it's been a fun year. In general, I think it's been cool to, you know what? I'm going to do something as a present right now. Drift King, this is for you. Because here's what Christmas is about. We didn't like Christ gives us what we don't deserve. You know what I mean? The grace we get through the Christ child is a free grace that isn't earned, but it's given to us. So this is my Christmas bit of grace to everyone here. It is a gift of free dome. You didn't earn this dome, and yet you deserve it. Take that as a metaphor for the fact that no matter what your year has been like, what you've done, you deserve a nice holiday season. You deserve to spend time with family and friends. You deserve a nice meal. But most importantly, you deserve to take a beat to yourself. Because let's be honest, most of our year and most of our time is dominated by the profit motive. Even if we are not individually creating capital and profit for ourselves to survive, we participate in activities by which we are helping increase the profit margins and the surplus capital of people that don't care if we live or die. That, combined with the political frictions and movements of 2024, have made it a kind of a tough year where a lot of us look around at what's happening ecologically, economically, political, even in the terms of religion, and feel like things are getting really bad. And it's an overwhelming anxiety that can be really tough to deal with. So I hope that we can all find this space to take a breath, realize that, certain things in the world we don't have the agency to change right now. Give ourselves some time, know that we're allowed to tap out, know that we're allowed to not pay attention to everything, and enjoy some of the little things in life. So I encourage you in the next week or so, sleep in when you can, watch some movies, eat some treats, and do remember that if you're doing last minute shopping, try to support local businesses when you can. Be nice to people that work in the service industry right now. Be nice to people that work in retail. It's a busy time of year for them, but people get treated like shit this time of year. So just be a person at the end of the day. Just be a person. And know that even when I'm burned out and things are feeling tough, know that the reason why I still like to do stuff like this is because I really value you all. I value this community. I really value and appreciate Henry, who we can't do this without. We realized when Henry was off shooting his cybersexual immersive VR nature documentary.
It was a diapering movie.
That we needed him very much. And so again, I really appreciate all of you. We're gonna take a beat, and we're hopefully gonna come back with some really good energy in 2025. So everyone have a good one. Maybe say something positive in the chat. And you can say something positive about yourself, say something positive about someone else. Let's just really flood the vibes here with some goddamn positivity as we go into the dark night. Not sure of what will be there. But, I say this earnestly. I love you guys. I don't love you in a way that I want to put babies in you and we have 1 billion babies and repopulate the world, all of us. But I love you guys. And you've shown yourself to be, kind, thoughtful, interesting people. I know from some of the emails we get and the messages we get, you all really are salt of the earth folks, and we really appreciate that. So thank you so much to everyone here. We will catch you in 2025. Enjoy the dome while you can, because you might never get it again. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy any other major religious tradition that I don't know about. Just because I didn't say it doesn't mean I don't respect it. And we'll see you guys in 2025.
See you
Good
all
day.
next year.